So I'm just going to read this. Considered by many to be among the greatest snowboarders ever to live, Terje Haakonsen has never shied away from speaking his mind and famously boycotted the 1998 Winter Olympics to protest how the International Olympic Committee was handling its inclusion of snowboarding for the first time. He's been a strong critic of the IOC ever since. But even with his background and reputation for plain speaking, Haakonsen's Twitter jokes in and around regarding freestyle skier Gus Kentworthy's historic decision to come out of being gay struck many as being tone deaf, and it set the winter sports community ablaze 5 years ago. Added that Terje, like so many others from this era, used the term gay to apply as a pejorative, like for lame, etc., and didn't seem particularly concerned about the impression this left, just added fuel to the fire. Fast forward to 2021, Terje releases a public apology on your Instagram. Is that right? I think.
What was that?
And it basically, sparked the whole thing off again, opened up some old wounds, maybe.
With the forest, you mean?
Your Instagram post, your apology.
You made an Instagram post that was kind of your apology to.
Oh yeah, well, I was kind of like this. I already apologized a bunch of times, but it was like it's not enough for people. So
this was the public apology, though. Yeah.
Well, yeah, doing it over again. But the same thing is the funny thing is like, hey, you should apologize and do this, but then they also tell you like you don't decide yourself if you're homophobic or racist or sexist.
Yeah.
So it's like all these people saying that you can't say it yourself, and nobody was saying it for me. So then I was like, okay, I'll just say it again, and you can.
Can I just finish my intro and then we're going to get to that. I haven't even done the big intro for Cheryl yet. So anyway, Terje releases a public apology and famously 2 minutes ago interrupts world-renowned journalist Jason Horton from his awesome intro. And anyway, meanwhile, 1 year before Terje's 2015 tweet, Dutch snowboarder Cheryl Maas was making some history of her own. It was the Sochi Winter Olympics. Cheryl had just messed up a second run at the inaugural slopestyle event. Cameras cut to her waiting for a score. She thrust a gloved mitt into the camera that was covered in rainbows and unicorns, leaving no doubt in anyone's mind as to where Cheryl, a happily married lesbian, stood on Vladimir Putin's anti-gay policies. It was one small mitt flash for a woman, one not so small step for gay rights on one of the biggest televised events in the world. So, these are our players.
Oh.
I'd be very interested in digging into a bit deeper today about where Cheryl Maas, a celebrated snowboarding gay activist, let's call it that, has got to say about Terje, the most infamous homophobe in winter sports as of 2015, according to some. So on the timeline, it was 2015, October, Gus Kentworthy comes out, and a Wall Street Journal put out an article saying why Gus Kentworthy's coming out is a big deal. Terje's response was a spectacularly off-target joke that went along the lines of, no, Todd Richards did this 20 years ago, and Arnold skiers gay, I'm heterosexual, so special. Hashtag. Todd Richards was not impressed, tweeting, respect took a lifetime to learn 140 characters or less to lose. So that was a pretty good comeback, I have to say. And Terje was given the chance to clear the air in a snowboarder interview with straight afterwards. And well, again, pretty forthright. And some people would have seen it as a perfectly reasonable set of things to say, and other people saw it as throwing more fuel on the fire. So that's where we're at. And then maybe we should, before coming up, fast forwarding to the apology or the apologies.
Torment magazine and what's his name?
Matt?
Blusted up again, where they were telling that they did an interview with a filmer.
Torment magazine, is that a ski magazine?
No, it's
No.
It's internet portal for snowboarding.
Oh, okay. And what's it called again? Torment.
It's from Denver, Colorado, I think.
Oh, okay, right.
They did an interview and with
For me, in that sense, what I heard, because I know about the comment back then, was really like, yeah, those two people who they just brought it back up. They just want to like do something for themselves. It wasn't even for the gay. It's maybe Pride Month. And every journalist goes dig into their book and archives. Every time it's Pride Month, I have so many requests because I did do that rainbow glove thing. Oh, can we like, they like try to put, gasoline on the fire. Can we say your story again? And then now with Terje, they're like, they found that you said something about, the gay stuff back in the day. And they're gonna like try to re-put that. And it's just for their own good. It's not even anything to do with, hey, Terje, do you hate the gays? Let's talk about it, because that's not cool. Like, you have a big platform where you speak your mind and they have a lot of followers. So like, let's have it all positive.
So this is journalism stirring the pot, basically.
For me, that's what I feel like, yeah.
Well, the journalism, and then like obviously we reached out to Torment Mag. I did it together with Burton, and we wrote an apology letter that they didn't want to print. That was a year ago.
Okay, and was that the thing? So when you posted something on your Instagram, was that a shortened version that was linking back to?
No, it was just like a different thing, because like some like, oh, your apology letter is bullshit, and it was more like, well, like one thing is like I didn't get to. If somebody calls you whatever public, the journalist should go back to the guy, go like, hey, this guy told you about this, and I didn't even get the chance to reply.
Your side, yeah.
So they wouldn't even post it. Okay, you're replying.
Yeah, and I didn't even post it, and well, time went, and and then suddenly a lot of people, they would write like, oh, homophobic or a gay basher, but I always ask them like, where's the proof for it? Because it's, I think most people would understand the difference between a bad joke and like being talking down on a person or a group. The thing is, like I never got to answer it or.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is.
Yeah, and the other thing too is the guy who was calling me a gay basher, he said in his own interview that he had friends that made jokes about gay people, but he knew they were good-hearted, so it was okay. Mm-hmm. And my question is like, I actually reached out to him on Instagram, like, hey, what's up? Like, why are you doing this? Like, you don't know me. He doesn't know me, what I stand for and what I do. Mm-hmm. And, I got the feedback like, well, you should use your platform to do this and this. And he also sent me the thing where like the list up, you don't decide if you're a racist, homophobic, sexist and thing yourself. And he sent me that. And then he wrote like, I'm not going to reply you more here. So I was like, okay. And then, like, I don't know, time went and other people asked me. And, like the thing is like, it's really hard. Like, I think for anyone who would get called something out in media and then they have to go out and apologize themselves. And then people go like, you can't do it yourself. And then I think it's like people around too are like scared to support and say anything because I feel like in any of those groups or whatever we have, there's people are too extreme and they scare people.
Well, yeah, I think it's like, even if you apologize, someone is going to twist your words, and that's what they're so good at doing. And especially someone that wants to feel hurt. And like with the gays now, like it's probably like, someone wants to feel like, oh, poor us or this, and they like just juice it up or they twist your words again. Like an apology is never good enough if they don't want it to be good enough. If they want to accept it, then a simple sorry could have been it. But like for me, with the words and what I know about it, it's like, I 100% know you're not like a homophobic, anything against gay and stuff. And, the gay jokes, what makes a word so hard and not hard, it's how you bring it, how you say it. And that simply makes it very simple. Like people that overreact that you can use gay in a negative or positive or whatever. It's like, we have way like lived past how you use a word. It's all about the sound you make behind it. Like, as I told Jason before, I use fucking every like 5 words in my sentences, and it's like, this is fucking awesome, fucking great, fucking this sucks. Fuck doesn't mean I actually want to have sex with you, because that's what the word means, fuck. I'm like, then we go to gay, this is fucking gay, it's lame. And then it's like, gay can be fun, and it's just, who cares how the word is in that sense been said? But then people like to be sensitive about it. It's like, oh, I'm part of that group, so now I'm like, you got nothing better to do with your life than feel sorry for something. I think it can be used in a positive, but what I think what wasn't so cool about your first comment 5 years ago is like, you know, for the gay people, you go through a certain thing in life and no one can like know how the struggle is. And for gay people that have had to fight for their rights a lot, the same is with like other groups of people and stuff. And then you can just never bash on someone's parade. And that's kind of what it was more looking like to me, in a sense. It's like, I'm not someone that likes the public attention and throws stuff up. Some people do, and some people use it in a good way. Some people use whatever. And it's like what Gus did. It's like, I wouldn't do it that way. But I do think it helped a lot of American people because, you know, everybody looks at it differently. And here it's been well received. And as I said with Jason too, like my wife, who doesn't know anything about it and just came out actually not that long ago, she was you know, watching the news and saw Gus come out and all this, like, oh, it's cool. Like, it's like very publicly coming out, which is good for some, and others are like, yeah, it shouldn't be a big deal. I'm 100%.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
My tweet too, even if it was worded really bad, it was like, what is the big deal? And I
know you meant in a nice way, like what it shouldn't be a big deal, but it is a big deal, and that's the thing.
Forget that I became kind of really a lot further in Norway. You know, I think we're one of the most progressive and first countries that allow marriage and so on. So it's just more like the whole backstory of that whole thing. It was like somebody was just like babbling and saying like, dude, I worked so much for this and this, and then somebody was just like disappointed that, like, for example, you did it right there and then. I was also talking to Shashti, you know, she was asking me, should I go or not? I'm like, well, if you want to make a statement, you don't go, or you go there and make a statement.
Yeah.
You know, and then like, because, you know, the rules are absurd, and then the whole that we're so far but backtracked in so many countries still. And I forget the big difference between especially Europe and America.
Gays are still being killed in certain parts of the world, you know, and that's crazy. And then you go back to the east side of the world and you have to stand. That's why, like, for Russia, like Jason, you just called me an activist in your intro. It's like, I'm definitely not an activist because I'm not even active. But I do stand up for when I think there's certain things are right or wrong and it comes to my attention. I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. I went to the Olympics. A lot of people, you know, before that whole deal were like, are you going to like protest? Are you not going to go? Whatever. And then, as Terje said before, he was totally anti-Olympics anyways in a general sense. And I've spoken with Terje about Olympics as well. Like it wasn't a great thing for snowboarding, but not everybody gets to pick and choose why they go in that sense. Like I could have not gone, but it would not help me be able to snowboard for the rest of my life. I got a lot out of it. And I think about myself, simple said as that. I don't think about the rest of how people snowboard and what we represent, because I love snowboarding and I do whatever it takes to snowboard. Well, that bring it back to like people asking, are you going to go to Russia? Because they're like anti-homo and all this shit. I'm like, I'm not going there because whatever they think. I'm going there because I get to snowboard and it'll be cool park and, you know, I get to ride with my friends and it's fun. It's fun for what I create in my world. That it's an Olympics. So I don't care about winning an Olympic medal. If I said that before in Dutch public, then they would be like, well, we're not funding you to go there and everything. But I'm like, I still want to win a contest. Do I care? It's the Olympics? No, I just want to win a contest. Do I go there because they're like against gay? I don't care. That's their problem. I'm going there. Then when I was there and the camera came to me and I was like, yeah, fuck it. I got a rainbow on my glove. And people notice 1 + 1 is 2, you know, like after they told me you cannot protest, you cannot have done this, they're gonna fine me $50,000, send me home. Oh yeah, I was in such legal trouble because you're not allowed to make Olympic as a
rule 50. I just had a big debate about that in Norway. Yeah,
and that's such a big deal. But I was like, what did I really do wrong? And I couldn't prove it because first of all, there wasn't. I'm so clever. No, it wasn't a rainbow on my glove. It's a sun and it's upside down. And it looks like a rainbow. Yes, I am gay, but hey, that's what you think of it. I didn't say it, but fuck it. So yeah, it was this whole drama too. but it's like, yeah, I'm not
I
an
thought you were.
activist,
I
but,
thought
like,
you were a unicorn activist. I thought you were saying like we need more unicorns in the world.
more magic. That's kind of like
More
the
magic.
point, no. But you know, it's just like, yeah, whatever you take from it, but the clever people will understand you. In the same material, he said something, I understood what he meant, because it's like, it should just be ego, it shouldn't be a big deal. But for him to say it wrong in a sense, and like it's kind of looked like he shit on Gus Kentworthy's parade and like coming out, and it's like it was a big deal for him, and it's not nice ever to then have negative thoughts, or why even bother, let someone do their thing. And that's more what I was like, I think it would be good for him to be like, hey, sorry Gus, I didn't meant to like take anything away from what, you know, where you like finally got out the closet, big deal, and helped a lot of people probably deal with their problems, because it is still a problem. It is not easy. Like still for me, like holding hand with my wife now and go on the street, and everybody's super cool with it down here in Boise as well. And you know, I am from the Netherlands, like no one gives a shit there. There's always people, especially in the evening when they're a bit drunk and you go to bars, that you're like, I don't want to cause a scene, so I can't even like hold my girl's hand, you know, when if it was a guy and a girl, it would be not so big deal. So there's always the underlining, but I don't make a big deal out of it, because that's just how life is.
Can I ask you a question about at this point, Cheryl? So
yeah.
We were last time we spoke, we were talking about homophobia, and you know, well, first of all, you know, is what is homophobia, and the next question was, you know, do you consider Terje to be homophobic, which you've already answered. But then the third one, which I thought was really cool, because we were talking about your the use of the term gay as something that's lame or whack or whatever, like Terje had been using it, and you gave me a really good example. You said like, I don't see that as homophobia, and then you gave me another good example of where you think. Can you give me an example of some kind of like subtle, not, you know, fucking fags, but like some kind of subtle homophobia that you may have encountered that isn't going to be like necessarily, you know, something you would be able to like point a finger and say that was, but you felt or you received it. So that's, I guess, what I'm saying. Is there an example of what is homophobia without being fucking fag?
Well, I think like mostly, of course, it is when you're in public, and as I said, you're not doing anything weird, but just holding hands, or like you really like see like those two people are together, and then you see people just look like, oh, is that like, you're like, oh, is that weird for them to see that, you know? And it's just like, if it is, then you're kind of like not necessarily they're like super homophobic straight away, but like the underlining is like, yeah, they don't seem to understand it. That just like love is love in the sense, you know, you meet someone cool and you want to be with that person.
Have you had examples of you having, you know, like, let's say, you know, what do they call it? PDAs, public display of affection, with your partner in public, and you've kind of like had someone either like react negatively, or has that happened to you, or do you kind of self-censor and not do that sort of stuff because you feel you don't want people looking?
There's definitely times, as I said before, that I adjust myself just because it's easier to not like get the hassle. And there is times when I've like been to bars and stuff where it's like, yeah, you hear lame things being said. And then also like, I remember before I want to go to holiday to Dubai, and then I heard about their rules that, you know, if you're gay there and you kiss or hold hands or something, that you even gonna be arrested or something. It's like, so I'll never go to Dubai. I like, don't go to that country, even though like we had friends living there. And then yeah, there's like, it's hard to say, because like it just becomes part of my life, of how I live with things, and I feel like everybody has it. Now you don't have to be gay or whatever. It's just like there's certain things in life, you know, that might make other people uncomfortable, and either you stand really up for that, or you just let it be and just like, fuck it, that's their problem. But yeah, you just adjust, and that kind of slowly happens. But I feel like not everybody understands it. Like when you're gay, it is just not as simple as when you're straight, for me.
Yeah, but also like people don't understand it because they're not from that place, and they're maybe not in it, you know.
Well, they're not been introduced to it yet, or like, you know, they like come from small village or whatever. It's like, you go to the big cities, it's never a problem. You go to small villages, yeah, you have older men looking like you know, like they've never seen it before or whatever, and then you're like, oh, okay. But then I like, no, both my grandpas are super open for it all, and you know, just laughed about it and definitely make gay jokes.
The older men are more like stoked though.
Yeah, but that's because it's two
Curious.
girls, and that's what I also spoke with Jason about. It's like two girls is okay. They have it much easier as a lesbian. It's like much easier
sure.
as gay guys, and that's another, like, I think a sad thing, but it is just the truth. It's like guys don't mind seeing two girls do whatever. It's like, you know, it's a sexual attraction to them in a sense. For two gay guys, yeah, I think straight girls don't care too much for seeing two gay guys kiss. Lesbians, they don't really care for gay guys to kiss, and then males in general don't care for other guys to see kiss. So they're like, yeah, it's even more harder for them. Because if I would go kiss in a bar with a girl, then everybody goes, woo, you know, they're like, oh, like, hey, and it's like, you see two guys kiss, and it's just, everybody's like, oh, yeah.
It's so ironic that you could be a homophobic. Well, if let's just say you're a homophobe, full stop. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It's a bit strange to me that you could find two girls kissing a turn on if you're a homophobic guy. I dare say there's homophobic women out there who would see two girls kissing and say, ew, two girls kissing, right? I mean, would I be right in thinking that?
There are some, but definitely I think not as many.
Mm-hmm. Most girls are.
Not as many.
I mean, I don't know any homophobic girls, full stop, so it's hard to say. But yeah. Can we...
Have you been called anything, Cheryl? Have you been called anything from other girls?
Have you met me? I don't think people dare to call me stuff in my face. Gotta ask people that, like, behind my back, whatever they call me. I don't know. Like
in a drunk moment or something.
No, I mean, my own brother said something once wrong. That's because he was pissed off at me and he threw the wrong word. Well, that just, like, I went red and we had like the craziest fight because he called me a dyke or something, and I was like, I knew that was in a negative way. You know, I like all the time say, like, I'm a dyke on a bike when I ride my Harley for fun, you know, and it's just like, you play with words and you have to laugh about it, but it is just in the moment when someone is being like, okay, it's upgrade, okay. Yeah, in the moment when someone knows they're throwing it negative at you or not. So it doesn't matter if he called me just an asshole, you know, it would have, like, I was mad, but like the dyke was more sensitive because he was calling me out that I walk boyish. I just came out of my bed and had my baseball jersey on and whatever, probably did look like a dude in that sense, if that's what you associate with. But I'm like, they're just close, and I just woke up, and he's like, he was annoyed with me for whatever reason, and then he like attacked me, which he knew, on a sensitive subject. So, and then it's like, that's not nice. And I think that's where you just got to watch out when you say certain things. It's like, you want to fight with someone, you can do it. And then there's hitting below the belt, and that happens sometimes. I'm guilty of it too, in different ways, you know. But as a gay, I can make all the gay jokes and never hit someone below the belt.
Cheryl, do you ever say, have you said, you know, oh, skiing is so gay, or, you know, rollerblading is so gay? Have you used the
I would say one too many times, for sure, like, definitely, like, but we laugh about it. And then especially like when this interview, I knew it was going to happen, and the whole thing, I spoke with my wife about it, with Natalie, and she's like, you know, we've only been joking about it ever since, just because I don't like to live in a world where you can't even say something. And as I said, it's how you choose to say it. So we say all the time, like, oh, that was so gay, and we laugh about it, because I don't think the actual word gay is like offensive if you just make a joke about it, because there's so many good jokes that are hitting certain things and targets, and people say, well, if you can't joke without hurting someone's feelings, to me, simply that's how we are. That's human beings. It's like sometimes you have to take something away from someone else. Like, we as Dutch people, in every country has it, the Dutch make fun of the Belgians. We always call them dumb. It's really not a nice thing to do. The Norwegians and the Swedes, they make jokes about each other all the time, you know, but no one ever takes it as super offensive. When you actually meet the person from the other country, you don't like, oh, you're dumb. You're like, you know, it's just like, it's just the jokes that go around. And I feel like that's the same with the gay jokes. It's like, come on, like, you know, you don't have to take it literally, and if you do that, that's your choice, and then you have a problem.
Having said that, what I've seen as well is like, I agree with you. And there's also a point when it stops being fun, right? So like, I had a friend who English, and he moved to Australia, and like, he's a joker, you know, but he said like after like a year of living in Australia, he just got so sick of the, you know, the Australians basically call you, you know, bloody poms, lazy poms, stupid poms. And it's like, it becomes relentless. So
yeah.
After a while, it's just like, stop it. It's just not funny anymore. And then of course they do it even more probably. And that's where it switches from kind of being fun to bullying.
Well, if someone points out simple, it's not fun, or it's not, like I teach my kids too. As soon as someone says stop, that's the one word you got to listen to. You stop, then you don't do that anymore. You know, stop is stop. And then and it's not because before that you didn't mean to offend anyone. You're like, you know, it's funny. Oh, you got Aussie accent, you know, you like because it's different to you. So it's funny. But then when he says stop, it's not funny anymore. And then you do it to fucking annoy him or hurt that person. And that's the difference.
So turning that back to you, Terje, at some point someone said to you, someone called you out for using the term gay. And at that point, did you stop, or did you defend your use of the word by saying, look, it's just like, I'm not homosexual, I'm not homophobic, it's not meant like that, you know, you don't have, you know, I'll use that word if I want to? Or did you sort of stop it, and have you stopped now, and you wouldn't use the word now and stuff? Because I definitely found, like, back in the day, I used to say things were gay like everybody else did when things were lame skiers gay, rollerblades gay, gay blades, etc. And I've realized that I don't do it anymore, and it wasn't for me. Luckily I didn't find myself, you know, getting, you know, I wasn't a public figure to get called out for it, but, you know, it's something that's just phased out. So what about you? What's your kind of like history with using the gay as a pejorative, and when you stopped it and so on?
Yeah, I think it's well, it's different when you speak public or whatever, or to your friends. But I also try to use the right words when I speak to friends now, in all different settings, not just in the gay setting, but all this other thing. But it's really hard to figure out what's right and wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
And
well, that's because now I think that's changed so much in the last year, like, and I think Trump had a lot to do with it as well, like how he spoke on the internet and stuff, and being so bad, he really divided, in my eyes, the US and stuff as well, with, you know, the people. And it's like, it's so sensitive now what you say, but it's like, now you can't say anything right anymore. Like, you know, there's certain things you don't even dare to say, even if you don't mean it. And I, like, my vocabulary isn't that great, especially when I speak English all the time. I've learned, as I said before, most things for me come from movies. I've watched so many movies, and that's how my vocabulary is growing. I see my kids now, they watch only YouTube. That's their vocabulary. They have some smart words, and I'm like, wow, where did you learn that? But I learned a lot, like, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. And then it's like, hey, motherfucker, how you doing? And it's like, oh, that is actually a really bad word, you know? But I'm like, I never stood still by it, because I'm Dutch. I would never say in my language, moederneuken. I'll be like, that sounds so bad coming out of my mouth. But in English, anything goes, you know? And that's like, my kids hear me swear like in English too now. And it's like, but if they would hear me in Norwegian swear, they know it's like, it would be really bad. So then there's a difference in the sensitivity of language. But as you say, you speak to a certain group, and then they're elderly, they're like, you know, I try to always still respect the elderly in the sense of how I address them in the Netherlands. There's a certain way of talking to the elderly, and then like, oh, you're so formal and stuff. They're like, wow, you just never know who you speak to. And then it's like with the young kids, they got all their slang. I can't even keep up with that anymore. But it's just like, which group to address. And I'm kind of tired of like, do you really have to put in that much effort? Can you just be who you are, and then people can just take it a notch down themselves of like what I meant by it, because you can see my expression and all that.
I've been putting like effort to it. You know, I have a lot of kids too, and definitely
A lot all over.
One thing is like speaking around them, but also I have friends that we correct each other just because we're just practicing. We, you know, trying to find another word or whatever. But like the whole thing too, like you mentioned, Cheryl, like the comedy and everything, and actually it's really important that people can have an opinion without being, you know,
Well, it's the freedom of speech, I think.
Yeah, attacked.
That should never go away.
People are so scared to say anything, and I think too, like a lot of people know me, but I didn't really see a lot of support out there when people were just saying that I was gas lifting and making all these excuses. I'm like, dude, I'm speaking from my heart, and I said it too. Like in my first apologies with Tom, is like, you know, like people should follow their heart. I don't care who they're with or who they're like, you know, and all these things. And also when I do, you know, like one thing is like the background of IOC and FIS is to protect the snowboarding sport for athletes' rights, you know, and their prize money and a revolution of sport. When that didn't work, I started using the human rights thing too, and the nature crimes, you know. But then you have like all these tree huggers and other people doing all these environmentalist groups and whatever. But when it comes to the Olympics, they don't give a fuck, you know. They just look away for that 3-week party. And there's so many of them. And also, like, if you can go deeper too, is like you said earlier, I understand people who want to have careers and they want to go there and go there, but the soul and the heart of snowboarding, though, it's right now.
But if I may interrupt you there, because
why just wait till I'm done, though?
Oh yeah.
Because FIS is like, now the prize money is all-time low, and when they have a contest, they don't market the snowboarder, or, you know, and we know how much money they get from IOC and how much they spend on even like also the skiers, you know, the action sport in general. And the thing is, like, you know, I use the human rights everybody should understand, and I've been doing that for over 20 years. And I mentioned a little thing about the Russia. I didn't go out like activist. I was not as good as you put in the gloves in the camera, but I would have if I was there. But I mentioned Putin's weird rules, one story post, I think I remember. But yeah, go ahead, Cheryl.
No, it's funny because you mentioned, like, you know, you wanted the best for snowboarding and stuff. And I remember, because I don't have a goldfish memory like Jason, I have a like elephant kind of memory. We were in Amsterdam, and you and I had a conversation where you're kind of like telling me, like, why would I go to the Olympics, and, you know, how that would be bad. And I remember my defense was, as I said earlier, like, you know, I just love snowboarding, and this is for me to keep snowboarding. I get funding, I get money, then I don't have to get a side job, and it means I can really focus on snowboarding. Yeah, you're kind of like, you want snowboarding to be good without that, but as female rider, and I don't know, like, I don't know you in the sense of standing up for the female snowboarders in snowboarding. It's also, that's another division, the divided group, let's put it. You got male snowboarding, you got female snowboarding. I feel like as female snowboarder, we had to fight for our rights as well, to come to certain events, to hit certain jumps. And I know there's not been many girls in the beginning that could ride certain big jumps, but because they didn't get the opportunity, they couldn't grow. As now, finally, after years of developing and, you know, putting our foot down, we need stuff for girls. It has grown so much, and what the girls now do is amazing. But that's like, it's so hard to hear as well. Like, I know you do it like with the right mind, in a sense, you know, you want snowboarding to be good, and that's why you were against the Olympics and these things. But there's always
I'm not against the Olympics. Get it right. I'm against how they run it and how they dictate sports, how they break nature crimes, and how they break human violations. That the whole idea of bringing all the sports together, that's a great idea. But
yeah, that was the first way of the Olympics was supposed to be
are run, and how they're like, especially with action sport and other these things, are they're stealing and dictating. That's the stuff I'm against. I'm not against like bringing everybody together and having a party. It's just the way it's run. So that's a big difference.
Terje, would you say that in the past you've been, let's say, I completely understand everyone's always understood and respected your position on the Olympics, and so there's no criticism there. But would you say that it's fair to say that in the past you've possibly been a little insensitive towards athletes who have decided to go to the Olympics for their own reasons. Maybe they didn't have any problem.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant, because it's not.
Yeah, no, I get it too. And then I said that if you want to say something, and I know a lot of people need this. It's the same thing as people are sponsored by unhealthy products, and they're just like, hey, I have to do it. I'm making a career. I get it. But at the same time, some people are trying to be like a kind of like a life coach, influencer, tree hugger, and then they have a sponsor that doesn't really match up, and that I think that's weird.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's hypocrisy?
Like, one thing is just embracing it. I know like most people are, who's sponsored by Red Bull, they use the network. Red Bull has an incredible network. They have the best coaches, and they do a lot of things for sport, and they do a lot of things for sports in general. Like, you have to thank them for it, but in the other way, like,
it's an unhealthy product, and you make kids drink sugar that they don't need, for sure.
And then the same with the thing with the Olympics. Like, sure, everybody who watches Olympics like apologize because of their human rights crimes and their nature crimes, and they're promoting McDonald's and Coca-Cola and give you diabetes. Or do like other people, they promote what gives you diabetes, and then they have a diabetes charity after. Like some people do. I'm serious. Like, why don't they have to apologize?
They should too, but it's not Pride Month. As I said, it's not been digged up by the journalist. It'll be when there's diabetes month.
But I think it's good. Like, I think all these movements are really good for a lot of things, but like losing the humor on it, and like you said, Cheryl, like the difference between the meaning and the thing is like, it's killing a lot of people, making people a lot of like scared too.
Yeah.
And like, if all humor is gone, then what are we living for if you don't laugh every day?
Oh yeah, you should be able to laugh about things, but that's the thing. Like for me, as I said before, definitely not a homophobic. Definitely, I don't think any gay person should take offense about when gay is being used in a funny way. And all skiers are gay is like coming from snowboarding, going against skiing. There's history there too, like how we had to fight to be on the skiers' mountains or whatever, and we weren't appreciated. And now all the skiers are coming into the snowboard parks that now they want to be freestyle parks. So it's like, it's always, it's like a wave going up and down. But you got to see the humor in it.
I know I'm a skier too. I'm a skier turned snowboarder.
Yeah, but it's more like, for me, that was like, like Gus did his thing, and then you gotta like try not to shit on his parade, in the sense that's you'd be like, if there was ever an apology needed, I would just be like, it would be just toward Gus, like, hey, it didn't mean anything to take away from your outcoming, because it's kind of good what you did. But
I did that to Tom, and maybe like I shouldn't hit him up personally, but I think he also like somebody talked to him, and he got it. It was not like about him. It was just happened to be him on that thing.
Yeah,
it could have been anybody else.
Can I ask a couple of questions at that point? I mean, just before I do want to move on from the original tweets and stuff, but I mean, you clearly upset two people that day. You upset Gus and you upset Todd Richards, who I'm assuming was a good buddy of yours. Otherwise, you wouldn't have made a joke like that and kind of like pulled him into it. But did you and Todd ever talk about it afterwards? And if so, what was said? And did you ever reach out to Gus and on a personal, direct level, and just say, "Hey, Gus, I was a dick," or it wasn't, it was a dickish joke, and I apologize, and I should have been more blah blah blah?
Well, Todd and me go far back, and Todd is known to shit talk about everybody, so I think he can handle it, because he almost lives off shit talking, and he talks, I remember he talking down on religious groups too, and so it's like, one guy I thought it was, can like handle it or think it would be funny. But obviously he didn't, because he's scared and he's from a place where that culture is different. With Gus, I only did the thing with snowboarder, and then, I didn't reach out, but I think like with some common friends, he know it was not about him, and like if I see him, I'll go and give him a hug and really say I'm sorry. But
give him a kiss, a good kiss.
I can kiss too. I don't know if you're drunk with me, but Roman would be scared.
Yeah.
But so, and I think he's over it, or I don't know. I should maybe reach out. I should call him. But the thing is, like, lot of people in all their different things. I see people are getting hit up by jokes about 20, 15, 10 years ago, and all kind of different industries. And
Yeah.
you know, like, I think most people are grown up and can understand it and get along with it.
Yeah, I think also what's said in the past should stay in the past, because it's like, you know, we all develop and we learn. And now it's like, as I said, this last year, so much has been progress with how human rights should be, and everybody has freedom of speech and freedom of whatever. And it's like, yeah, we always develop. And like back in the day, there was a lot of things like against gays and stuff as well. And it has developed in a good way. So like, why would I call someone out before that they
Let
did?
me ask you something, something funny. This guy lives over in Norway. They did like this comic thing, and we're sitting in the chairlift, like different guys, and I'm sitting there with Danny Davis, and like, and I think the subject comes up, and it's like, and then I go like, what if you scream like a girl? And I just went this like, wow, and we're like all cartoons. So it's like, and the thing is like, a lot of people go like, hey man, you scream like a girl, and that's like, will you get offended by that? Do you know the meaning about screaming like a girl?
Yeah. I know, like there's a lot of things like that, you know.
But
like,
it's not like a girl
throwing like a girl as well.
It's a high pitch. It's a high pitch on the screen.
But that's the whole thing and how you take it. But it's like there's so many, like, and now with the
is that a microaggression? Because we talked about microaggressions, I think in one of the maybe in your apology you said something about microaggressions. And my understanding of microaggressions, because when I first heard about microaggressions, I was like, what the hell is a microaggression? And
what is that?
Apparently,
fancy with words.
It would be something that's like saying, "Oh, you throw like a girl." It's like, or squeal, and
it's like negative
to a guy, and then that would be saying something that's like it's a negative thing that's, you know, applying to them. So is that sexist, for example, to say you throw like a girl? I'm sure there's some girls who can out-throw me for sure, of course. So that's a squeal like a girl. Is that a microaggression, or is it well known that, is it just a fair observation that girls have higher pitched voices than guys?
Well, that's the whole thing, and that's just however you want to take it. You want to be offensive by it, it's like, sure, go ahead. There is like, you know, there's no reason why a girl can't do these certain things, or like, you know, my scream is maybe not as high pitch as another one, but it is not about that. And it's just like, in that time being, it's a joke, and it's like, yeah, it goes to like, as I said, girls had to fight for their rights to be on so many male platforms for so long, and they do now still, and it's growing, you know, like with soccer and then all that stuff, they finally get more recognition. But yeah, if you're going to be offensive by everything, then there's also no growth. I think then you're not going to grow anywhere, because then you just,
I know. Yeah, I think like a lot of youth and younger people or whatever, they're not going to say their opinion because they're scared.
I think that in a way,
I always got told like, you ride like a guy, and I'm like, I know it's a compliment, but I'm like, well, fuck you, I ride like me. And I was like, yeah, is it sometimes better than a guy or whatever? Then like, yeah, cool. But it's like, yeah, how do you want to take it? If I was a grumpy that morning, I would have been like, well, fuck you, like I'm not a guy. And if I was like in a good mood, be like, oh yeah, I ride like a guy. I want to like be like, you know, that more gangster style, whatever, not like too much with my ass out and whatever. And it's like, you know, just however the day comes and however you take things. And some people are just really set on right and wrong, and I feel like they have nothing better to do in their lives than just focus on what other people say. Like,
I guess this goes. This is one thing I wanted to ask on this topic, and it kind of seems like the right place to put it in there. Is part of what one of the things that Terje also said in his apology was like, oh, you know, one of the things that is I've been told is that you don't get to decide if you're a homophobe, basically, or you don't get to decide what was homophobic, and you don't get to decide if you're a homophobe because you're not gay. That's a bit in the same way if you're saying, hey, you know, you ride like a guy. You could be like, you don't get to decide if I, you know, you don't get to. Yeah,
but then you don't get to say anything anymore, and communication kind of dies.
You don't get to decide
whatever you say. You can't say anything.
Yeah.
And that's feel like a lot of the apologists. I could like, fuck, I can't really, you know, I can't say anything of my background or history. And like the thing is, like a lot of people like obviously don't know me because they can't or live different places. And that's like when all the opinions and this thing, and like if they really knew what I did for human rights, I think they would think a little different. Or if they had a sense of humor and can see the difference between, obviously a bad joke that I shouldn't have said, but you know, I'm probably gonna do a lot more mistakes in my life than this.
And Cheryl, so I guess you saw the apology and you know that there was basically a backlash from certain people in the. I mean, I think when the apology came out, it was generally like, oh wow, Terje, apologized for that stuff he said back then. He was pretty unrepentant at the time. That's really cool. Way to go, Terje. I saw some really positive comments in the comment section from people. But then there was this another backlash. Of course there was, but there's another backlash from people in the LGBTQ plus community who said your apology sucked. So I would be interested to know your take on this, Cheryl. What if you think Terje's apology was good, or if it sucked, if it seemed authentic, where he went wrong, or if you can see why those people thought it sucked. Can you give me your perspective on that, on Terje's apology?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, because as I said, it's like, I don't think he needed to apologize to the LGBTQ community in the first place of what he said. His first offensive thing he wrote to Gus, because I did look that back up. I was like, the only thing he needs to apologize is to Gus, because Gus had his big thing coming out, and however he did it, how he's entitled to, and it was a big deal for him. It's a big deal for a lot of people. And Terje's joke, like hashtag, I'm heterosexual, whatever, like, it isn't a big deal. That is what was in my ID the offensive part. It's like, you don't get to decide what is a big deal for someone and what's not. Like, let him have his thing. So that is where I think the apology that he did wrote, it's like towards gay community, I think it's good. Like, yeah, like, he's sorry for using gay in not the right way and stuff. But I can't even understand it, because I'm like, I'm guilty of using gay in the same way, and I am gay. So that's like, but it's allowed for me to use that word, or maybe it's not even. I'm not like, probably I'm gonna have some LGBTQ people come after me after this interview. Like, I was at trivia last night with Natalie, and they were like, the rainbow flag came up, and they're like, oh, this is for the girls in the back, because they saw we're gay, and cool. And then they asked, who designed this flag? I'm like, you know what? I live my life. I don't go into the history and study everything. Like, I know what the rainbow flag stands for, who came up with it and all that. And it's, for me, it's not important. It's important to some people because they're really into where history came from and how it all develops. And you should know your meaning. I'm like, I don't need to know the meaning. Who are you to tell me that I need to know the meaning of gay just because I'm gay? I'm like, my understanding of gay or homosexuality is like, all I know from my experience, like, I fell in love with a woman, and that's what I like, and that's my preference. And that doesn't mean I have to know every single rule about how it's good to be a good gay person, what to represent and stuff. When I feel, as I said before, some right is taken away, and I feel it's unfair, and I stand up for dogs. I adopt dogs that are being put down. Pit bulls, people don't like pit bulls because the way they look aggressive. Like, the sweetest dogs I ever had. I'll stand up for those dogs that I know. Like, I just stand up for what I know in my little life and try to do good by that. And I know Terje, as he mentioned before, and he's not speaking too loud, he's really like for all these organizations, he does all these things, and he stands up. He's way better, I would say, human being in the sense of me, because I do my little bubble. And that's what I've always said, like, the people around me, because that's what I can influence. I don't want to be like some, president of a country, like, because you can be anything. That's what US has proven. Any dickhead, I would say, can be president. It's not my thing in my life. It's not my goal. Like, I do around me. And Terje, I think he has a way bigger spread, and it's great to see that he stands up for these things. So I see him as, in my opinion, a better human being than me, because he tries to do better for more people than I do for my 50 people that I know. He tries to do it for hundreds of people.
but but the whole thing, like, you know, I've been really, I could do so much more, but people will, a lot of people will just say I'm really negative, you know, negative because I'm also bringing a message of something that is not good, and there may be a part of it. And so I cut down a lot. I was thinking about actually doing more now, since people give so much more for these groups and maybe don't look away so easy. But it's incredible, like you get a lot of positive feedback for standing up for certain things, but you get like a lot of negativity because you just, you know, you're bringing a truth message or something that maybe they were a part of or felt a little guilty.
Yeah, but I think that's our part, is like what you do. It's like you say they're bad because of this, rather than, and I'm 100% guilty. I only see like negative. I'm always mentioning negative things too. I'm not good with that, but it's like, if you bring the message in a different way, and that is an art, I think, then you can bring positive things to it. Like, you know, rather than saying IOC is negative in this sense of like they're cutting down trees. It's like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we all go plant trees over there? And you don't even mention the negative, but it's hard, you know. I even know if you like understand what I mean.
No, I totally understand what you mean. But also, like, you know, like one thing is coming up with like criticism and then having a solution at the same time.
Yeah.
And I do have solutions. I've been doing a lot of interviews about like how IOC can be sustainable and actually making sports for countries that need more money than other countries. And
but I'm thinking it's you that it's your way. It's Terje that just calls the truth as you see it, and that's fine, and that's freedom of speech. There shouldn't be any negative against like, well, he's just negative because he says all these bad things. It's like, that's Terje points it out that way.
Facts from, you know, it's more like I don't make that stuff. The only thing I know about the own stuff, it's how the snowboard industry and how everybody, you know, like how IOC and FIS just kind of stole it, you know, with the nationalism and their monopoly. You know, FIS has monopoly, country teams have a monopoly on this thing. So,
but I can say that snowboard industry is that great myself. From my experience of how long I've been in it and running most of the contracts and deals myself, I'm like, when I look back on things, I'm like, this, you know, the snowboard industry, it ain't all family and good and stuff. It's business, and it's like bullshit and a lot of bullshit talk.
One thing is standing up for each other, and the other thing is like, you know, the cynical sports industry. But you know, if as a group and standing for something that is better and better for the progression and contest, I think that's where kind of snowboarding been failing, because they could have been really a lot further than they are now.
It is, but it's also part of the brand. I don't like, you know, I feel like the brands could have done so much more if they wanted to. And they are all dollar focused as well. And there's the big brand that you and I both wrote for that I'm like super disappointed in with where they gone from where they were.
All gone.
Yeah.
Guys, can I lob? I mean, can I? I've got a little grenade I want to lob in here while we're sort of talking about the industry. Yeah, what's your take on talking of it's partly to do with cancel culture or call-out culture, and it's this idea that, you know, if somebody's said something or done something, that they not only do they get held accountable for it, which I think everyone should be accountable for things they say, especially publicly, but if the verdict of public opinion goes against you, you can potentially get cancelled, as in you can lose your platform, or you can even lose your job and your livelihood. So not too long ago, Nicholas Muller got pre-cancelled for some stuff he came out with on social media, and he got dropped by all his sponsors. And there was a lot of talk about him afterwards, and I didn't pay too much attention to it, but I felt a little disappointed personally that he'd lost all his sponsors for making some statements, even though I'm not, you know, like I said, wanting to get too deep into what he said. I know he upset some people. What's your take on what happened with Nicholas? That's the question. Terje.
Well, you can look at it, I think, in different ways. You know, like people who know Nicholas know he's a nice, good-hearted guy. And I don't know, there's just for a moment there's there's a lot of conspiracies out there and a lot of things, and he just kind of got deep in posting it, and he's still the nice kind of quiet Nicholas. And but a lot of his friends, including me, we tried like, hey, we don't really need it, but it didn't really stop. He just really kind of want to stand up for it. So it's a really hard subject. I I didn't pretty much didn't agree with 99% of what those posts were about. So everybody can have their opinion and think something, and he didn't really put things on people. So like, you have to do this and that. But it's definitely a sensible subject. Speaking like of a person, and like not everybody knows what he goes through privately, or I know there's a lot of people who've been trying to reach out, but I think he just decided his path. I haven't really caught up with him in a long time. So I just hope that he just keeps snowboarding, and hope that the world is not going to go under, or think that certain people are the devil, or other people are really good people. But yeah, it's it's, I don't know, it's you know how much crazy things there's out on the internet, and what should we believe and whatever. But I just think he kind of shouldn't really mixed it up with his snowboarding life posts. But that's his choice, so yeah, you can say.
No, it's because I just want to say something earlier what I kind of was forgetting to say when it came up. But I wanted to say before you had some kind of question, Jason, I don't remember how it really went, but like what I wanted to add to this homo stuff is like, you are allowed, like as you say, to your own opinion, you're allowed to not like gays. You're allowed to be disgusted by watching something you don't like to see, because as Terje say, like, you don't choose like if you're homophobic or not. It's like there's nothing wrong with you to having certain preferences of what you see, what you don't see, but you have to let everybody be in their own right and their values. And I think that is very clear. Like, if you go to a restaurant and you see two guys kissing and they going all about it, then you can be like, yeah, I really don't want to see that. But I'm the same as like, I see two straight people kiss at a restaurant and go all about it. I'm like also thinking still, go get a room. It's like, it doesn't matter if they were gay or straight. It's like certain things you just don't want to see because maybe you're with your kids or whatever. But as long as it's in like the main line, it's in everybody's right to do whatever, like it's just like having decency. Like you go to a restaurant, we go to eat, you have family time, you share some love, you give each other a kiss stuff. If you sit on each other's lap and all over that, like nobody wants to see it, has nothing to do. But it's okay to not like the idea of it or something, but it doesn't mean you don't have to like the person.
Yeah, but also, what do you think about like people labeling other people without knowing them?
It happens all the time. I think that's like, and I think everybody's pretty much guilty of it. Like even the people that are trying to be super open-minded, we label everything. Everything is being put in a box, and it's so hard. It's like everybody's like makes their own little boxes, or it's like, we all understand the same boxes. It's just what we do. It's like, I think we're wired that way, and it isn't always nice. It's like, I think it is frustrating many times, but I'm still guilty of myself putting things in a box too. Like, oh, that belongs there. That's just how we structure our lives, I think.
Okay.
Waiting by that. That's what I think. Anyways, back to Nicholas.
I totally agree.
Oh, yeah.
That's it's a tough call. Like, like that's what I say. Like like obviously Gus was in that joke, but I didn't like go after him and talk down on him. I was like, it was totally like another sense of like what we're used to where I live, and so it was a big deal. But I don't know. I hope more, athletes would stand up in like at the moment, and not, or I don't know, like share, like you're like kind of quiet about it, but at least you did something. And I think I have like respect for people who can actually just do it there and then don't be afraid of it. I know it's really hard in certain ways, and
it is always hard to do to please everyone the right way. Like I had an example and I called Jamie out for it, like Jamie Anderson, and I know she's a really good, kind-hearted person. Makes a lot of money with snowboarding, and then we're one day at the Dew Tour and they are blowing so much snow to make the competition happen because there is no snow, and they're saying it comes out of the Colorado River, and all the fish are dying because they're sucking up all the water to spray the snow. And she's like, yeah, we should, she's all complaining about it. It's like, well, you complaining about them spraying the snow, then please don't show up at the contest tomorrow. Or if you do show up at the contest tomorrow and we all know you're going to win it because, you're a good snowboarder, then give all that prize money away to the fish, to whoever is going to, make more new fish. And then she wasn't happy that I called her out because she did it publicly, like, oh, the fish are dying because we're blowing too much snow. I'm like, well, we're doing it for us, for you and I, who's going to ride that contest, you and I who love snowboarding. So there's always, I know she meant that well. And as you said before, there's people right for Red Bull and Rockstar and then want to show a healthy lifestyle as well. And it's like, there's nothing healthy about drinking those things. But
I'm a hypocrite. I'm a hypocrite in a lot of ways. A lot of ways I'm a hypocrite, and I think we all are. But I think it's a little difference though of doing things like I told one guy, it's the difference between shaking hands or blowing him.
Of course. There's a balance, but that's the thing is in life. There's a balance in everything, and we all have to find that balance. And some people, they're just not balanced the same way. And it's like you also can't blame for them. And all we can do, and that comes back to Nicholas Muller, is have a debate, teach them, try to see him another side, like if everybody sees the better side and some don't just blame them for being bad people. They maybe not educated good and they maybe don't have the resources, whatever. Let's try to talk with them and see, hey, can we get you over to our side? Or they try to get us over to their side, that's just what we do. And I think with Nicholas Muller as well, like what Jason was asking, like I don't think one thing wrong like has to do with all the good things he's done before. Other way around, if he did all good things, or all bad things, you do one good thing. That doesn't, all the rights don't what is it? All the wrongs don't right.
Or as Todd said, a lifetime to build a reputation, 140
exactly.
Lose it.
It just exactly like that. And it's like Nicholas Muller is a great snowboarder. What I know of him personally, he's a really nice, kind guy. And like, I haven't even followed what he said, but I heard some things. And when you explained that it's been very bad and negative, or, he another side, and it's like, that is not good. And he used this platform, maybe not so well, because have an opinion. If you're going to write out your opinion, be ready for the backfire. And the company has a right to step away from you, but it's also cowardly for a company to straight away step away. I'm like, how about you show us in 6 months' time that you had like good talks with Nicholas Muller, and maybe he sees things differently or whatever, like not instantly be like, and the same with Todd Richards did with Terje. It's like, he mentioned my name. I have nothing to do with this. Like, this was not me. I'm like, I
have to agree with you there, Cheryl. I mean, when it happened with Nicholas, I heard he got dropped by his sponsors, and I don't remember who he was involved in, but there was another team rider on the canoe, I guess, who was basically calling out Nicholas's comments on social media, and at that point I was like, fuck, if it was my snowboard company, or if I was the team manager or marketing manager, whatever, then I think the first thing I would want to do is get these two guys, on a podcast together and let them hammer it out. It's like, Nicholas, you've been saying some pretty wild stuff,
have a debate.
Have a debate and be held accountable for what you've said. But not just be, switched off, silenced, shut, cancelled,
I don't think in that sense it's like where the snowboard industry can have impact on certain things. It's not the solution to pull your hands away from something straight away. It's like,
and it's the same in society.
that's the cowardly, easy thing to do. It's just
Yeah.
not me, not my problem. No, he's not with us anymore.
It's quite interesting. I often hear people saying snowboarding as an industry needs to basically stop saying, hey, it's just about snowboarding. We shouldn't be getting into politics or, identity politics or anything like that.
Get into politics, but leave it separately. Nicholas Muller is a great snowboarder. Terje is a great snowboarder. Like, there's other great snowboarders that I heard, like, they've been fired for certain things. And I'm like, they're great snowboarders. Are they great
role models?
Politicians? No. Okay, so like, make sure next time you make a contract with them that says in the contract, this is what you need to do. They do the same with like drugs and alcohol, like, you're only allowed to show this, or you're only allowed to assume that, and whatever, it's in the contract. And be like, no public statements, the same as that rule 50, no public statements for you, because obviously we only like you for your snowboarding. And I think it's good to have people that are all rounded. They're just great personalities. But I also feel like sometimes it's sad, because if you just do something, like, I love snowboarding and I live for the snowboarding sport, and that's how I used to prove myself back in the day, because I wasn't speaking up. I was the quiet girl in the corner, no one would ever seen, but I let my snowboarding speak for me. And that was good. Nowadays, I feel like nobody is watching my snowboarding anymore, so I can't even prove like I'm like still a good snowboarder, because I don't have the fucking right social skills or the right tweets and like being loud enough that I have enough followers that I like, you don't get invited to the cool contest you want to ride, because they're like, you don't have enough followers. I'm like, let me prove myself on my snowboard, because wasn't that what we were doing here? And I feel like sometimes that drifts away.
Yeah, I like the hashtag we ride together.
Me too, but I always feel like I ride alone.
I don't know about that hashtag. What's that hashtag about?
No, it's just a hashtag that doesn't make any sense. Like a lot of hashtag doesn't.
No. It's like no friends on powder days. Well, fuck that. I love a good friend on a powder day.
That's true.
Boring because you think alone and share the joy. Yeah.
And I guess when you distill something down into 140 characters or less tweet, or when you put something on a hashtag, you're basically making something, you're distilling something down from, the world's a big complicated place, and you're making it into quite a small, not very complicated thing. But whatever that hashtag might be, it can be read in two ways depending on the perspective, right? So one of those ones is the Black Lives Matter is the one that people talk about a lot, and it's like, well, what is Black Lives Matter? And some people are like, oh, well, Black Lives Matter is absolutely, everyone should respect that slogan, because of course Black Lives Matter. And
well, there's a subject I don't even dare to bring up, because
such a hot
either
potato.
way, you're gonna be fucking under the gun. That's the whole thing.
I just brought it up, and then I was like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. But like I said, some people get completely like have a negative association with it, like, oh, well, of course all lives matter, and they're not getting it from one side. But then the people are saying, of course Black Lives Matter, because they're speaking about their own personal experience, and they haven't mattered enough in the past, and they need to matter more, and that's totally fine. So, but these things, when you just, and then you could say, oh, it's actually a political movement that's
suicide.
Okay, cut. I don't know. I didn't think about it, and I would just like to publicly apologize before this is even published for any offense I may have caused.
Luckily you're typing it up.
Luckily, I'm going to delete this bit ASAP.
Yeah.
No,
but that's the whole thing. That's the point. That it's just like, there's good examples there, but I don't want to go there.
So this is what I experienced, and like, it's not like I'm against other countries or whatever. The people will, if we go back to the homophobic subject. So this is how scared people of certain places to be, like, if they're I don't think they're homophobic, but they're scared to being like that they're like gay, or you think they're gay. So I share a lot of rooms with guys, and a lot of the hotels in Europe, it's it's not two big queen beds. It's a one king size.
American luxury.
Yeah, and then I come into the room and they're sharing the room, and the guy is putting the mattress on the floor, and I'm like, well, what's your problem? Like, are you scared of me? Like, and that's where they're from, and I'm not gonna say any countries, but
yeah,
it's and that happened a lot. Like, I haven't seen it so much more lately, probably because I haven't shared too many rooms with
I think it's pretty mellow now from what I've seen on the tour, and like the young riders, they
definitely
cuddle, and they're just like open to it.
It was definitely a big culture, because like some people I always wake up spooning with the guy, but the other guys would be like, yeah, I'll just put this on the floor. I'm like, yeah, you don't have to put that on the floor. Like, I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah. but that's like in that same sense, that awkward situations, I'm sharing room with other girls and stuff, and it's like, and suddenly you're like, you're gay, and then suddenly you're like, well, it doesn't mean I'm attracted to you. Don't worry that I'm gonna like be hitting on you now, like, and it's like, where do you put yourself? So I ended up on the tour like many times in my own bedroom, because they're like, okay, we don't put guys and girls together, and then it's like, well, you're gay, so you also don't put girls and girls together, and it's like,
people are too serious.
and then it's like, it doesn't matter, if you're gonna have to share a room, it shouldn't matter if it's a guy and a girl, or two guys or two girls, whatever. Like, it's budget problem, it's all money. It's like, fuck. We all want to have our own big bed. It would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I was just thinking when Terje was talking about that sharing the bed thing, and then like, putting the mattress on the floor, I've experienced that, and I was thinking, it's always kind of, it happened to me when someone put the mattress on the floor, and I was just all like, sure, yeah, if that makes you more comfortable, happy. Fine. And then it made me kind of laugh, but then I hadn't even thought about what it must be like in your case, or a gay guy's case, when it's all like, I'm just going to put the mattress on the floor because you're gay. And it's all like, oh yeah, shit, that would actually be,
I mean, awkward.
way more awkward.
Yeah.
At least,
or like when you have to share showers, or like it becomes more a thing, and then in the locker rooms and stuff, and it's just like, well, it's just a weird thing. I remember my daddy's part of a rugby club in the Netherlands, and the rugby guys are all like, ugh, and this is like that many years ago too, and one of the guys was gay, and it was so hard for him to come out to gay, because the rugby guys, from the stories I heard and the crazy drunk stuff I've seen, they'll come run around naked out of their shower thing, and like, they have a lot of beer, and I'm sure you guys know all the same stories, because it's like fun, whatever, you're like all like having your dicks out and running about, but then suddenly one guy is gay, and he feels bad because he's worried that other guys are thinking, oh, he's only looking at my dick or whatever, or he's like, oh, I don't want to shower in front of him anymore, because that's like, the homophobia.
Doesn't want to kill the vibe.
Exactly, because it was such a good vibe before, and then suddenly it's like, oh, awkward. Everybody has to wear the towels when they go to the shower, and then they quickly shower, and they don't pick up the soap anymore. It's just like, but it plays through like, the gay person's mind. They don't want to kill the vibe. They don't want to make it awkward for anyone. So it's hard then to come out the closet and be like, hey, I'm gay. And then will it be accepted, or are going to be some people homophobic and think other shit? Even though, I would throw my mattress on the ground sleeping next to someone because I hate them fucking snoring or kicking or whatever. But when someone does it to me and I'm like, oh, are you worried because I'm going to come on to you? I'm like, that's no fucking way. I have my own little people that I like, Some people, I like heard these stories too, where they say, well, why didn't you never hit on me since you're gay? We're like, friends forever. And I'm like,
you had that?
Because you have, not me, but I heard the story. And then it's kind of also weird. It's like, no, because you have a type. It's still a certain type, It doesn't mean when you're gay, you suddenly like every guy or you like every girl. That's because you still like a certain type in life. And that's, I think homophobics need to understand, like, in the sense, if they're scared to be hit on, it's like, don't worry, you're probably not that person's type even, You're like, some ugly person, and then it's like, oh, I don't want to share with him, like who knows what he's gonna do. Or I'm like, you think it too highly of yourself.
Although with horny dudes, it's slightly different, because horny dudes at a certain age would fuck anything.
Then it's only a good thing that you get to fuck something, right?
As long as everybody's getting some.
Yeah.
Well,
we actually talked about that when I don't know if you remember our conversation when I was explaining, like, I don't know how we got into it, but you know, I think anybody could be gay. We said that because if you have your best friend, if two guys, they're like, I see so many bromance happening around me, especially in the action sports and stuff, because there's nothing more fun to do something with your best buddy. You have so much fun. You're really like in line. You know each other so well. So the only difference between a relationship, between, you know, the relationship you have is like missing the sex. So if you have your best friend and you do all the fun things with, and you hang out, you know, like being on the road and you hang out together, it's like you change that, like, okay, you add a sex to it, but you're not attractive, you say, to a guy. But then it's like, just close your eyes, because I bet that person knows your body better than, like, you know, a female would or whatever. And the other way around, like females, I heard so many females, like, you know, they didn't have the greatest sex with guys, but then it's like they had sex with a girl, and it's like, of course we understand our own bodies better, or have more knowledge in that sense. It's like, close your eyes, and I'm sure you could have the best relationship with the person that's been so close to you, regardless if it was a guy or a girl, or whoever you are. Because
close your eyes and let go of all of your kind of like social
blocks,
format programming and prejudices, I guess.
Yeah.
I always, makes me, when I think about that we had an interesting point when we talked the first time, Cheryl, about I was like, for some reason it seems like female gay lesbians are more widely accepted, and people are less likely to have a kind of a grossed out reaction to it compared to men. And then you made a good point that, well, it's in a way it's in this day and age, it's still kind of harder to be a gay guy than a gay girl.
Definitely.
And then I was like, oh yeah, well maybe it's, and I thought for a long time, I thought, well, girls, I always had this idea that girls were just more sort of like fluid with their sexuality. They were less, you know, one or the other. There was a lot more bisexual females than there are bisexual males. And with men, you're either gay or you're straight. And you were like, well, that's a lot to do with social conditioning and format as much as anything. And then there's this whole interesting aspect of human civilization, which is this whole idea that this concept of male bonding, that, you know, back when we were all cavemen, you know, the women would be in the village sort of like hanging out and chatting and looking after kids, and the men would go off and they would go on the hunt together. And they had this different kind of, like, it was called male bonding. They had these very close relationships with each other that were non-sexual, but there was this idea that there's a sort of an extra layer of intimacy that men can potentially have. I always thought was an interesting thing. And then on the gay men side of things, I once read that, or heard that, Top Gun is like a hugely gay iconic movie, because it's kind of like, gay men love that movie because it's basically all these straight dudes being super, you know, guess you could say straight, but it's a movie that really appeals to gay guys.
I really liked the movie, but
I like that movie too. I didn't, and I was like,
it's a classic.
It's a classic. What are there any thoughts? You guys got anything to add to that? Because I don't really know what I'm talking about again.
But I like.
You like Top Gun?
Yeah, I thought Top Gun was good at the time. No, but it's more like the being a homophobe, being a guy. I think it's more common, but I think a lot of people pretend they're kind of homophobe just to have like a tough act on, or like try not to, like, you know, maybe that's, you know, like the older generation or whatever. But like I also mentioned in that I never seen anybody being homophobic in the industry, you know, and I'm being dead honest, you know, about this. And I never really have anybody talk bad about it or mention it or just, so.
No, that I agree with. Like in the industry, there's never been a bad vibe that you cannot be who you want to be, because I feel like snowboarding has been very open in its sense.
Yeah.
But because of your background, like I had, and like with Sharka, because like I told Sharka to kind of come out the closet as well, you're worried about losing sponsors because you're worried about what they could think because of the outside world, and that's just with sponsor and stuff. If I'm suddenly gay and I only like to wear like the way I do my things, then it's like I'm gonna lose my male followers because they feel like they have less how do you call that, connection with me, because I feel it has to do with that, where they're like, oh, I like her, she's a cool babe, she could be my ideal woman, whatever, I had that before. People, oh, marry me. It's like, well, I'm gay, like what's the point even like saying this like stuff. But it's funny. But it's like you suddenly worried about what people think and you're going to lose your sponsors or not. And that's what makes hard. And it's not necessarily that the industry has been ever against it. They never said, we welcome you still. That's the difference. Speak up because we don't care who you are.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like, some people are like, oh, I can't believe you said like you've never seen. And I'm like, I'm just being honest from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was some of the comments that when you said that you never had experienced homophobia in the industry, people were like, come on, be real. And or even like, well, what would you know about it? You're straight. When would you have experienced homophobia? I think that was maybe the angle they were coming at. But Cheryl, you're backing it up by saying you've not really experienced it either. So that's kind of, good to hear.
Yeah.
I've never experienced it. I've got one experience of this, and it was like way back when I was at Method, and there was 5 or 6 of us, all guys, traveling in a bus somewhere, and we were like talking as you do. Suddenly the subject came up, and one of the guys in the van was all like, God, man, I'm not like, I don't hate gays or anything, but it just makes me feel fucking sick, man. It just grosses me out. Ugh. And I remember really well, because there were like 6 of us in the bus, the other 5 of us all instantly just being all like, ooh, oh, you're a homophobe, ooh, gross. And maybe you hate gays so much because deep down you're gay. And he's, no, I don't, man. And then he kind of like, basically we spent the rest of the trip, saying that he was so far into the closet he just needed to come out, and it was just like a funny running joke the rest of the time.
Exactly.
He got really pissed off about it, and that made me think, yeah, we're not a homophobic industry.
I actually did experience it now, because I've like the way I look at snowboarding and I see certain industry, like the people I relate myself with, I could say no. Then if I actually think properly, there's been a massive deal, and I like, not about throwing people or things, brands under the bus, but there has been one person, and I'm like, no, fuck it. Like, it's been Marichu, her, the Roxy.
Oh yeah.
The Roxy marketing manager or boss.
Mm-hmm.
She's been weird about the relationship I had with Stina from the get-go. Like, she and Stina were quite like, Stina signed for Roxy like years ago, and she was kind of like the golden girl over there. Then started dating me. And then when she found out, she put a lid on it. Like, she was like telling Stina all the time, don't tell anyone, don't show this to anyone. When we're kind of like, when you're like newly in love, you're like all about like showing it to everybody. You just want to hold hands. You want to do things. You're like, yeah. Well, and that really like was hard on my relationship with her, in the sense like we couldn't be openly gay. And that's, I kind of like forgot about it, because it's like, I don't like to like think about those kind of stupid things. But she was one, and she was like, it made it all awkward, like when Stina was becoming team manager and had to manage all the girls team, and then it's like, yeah, but you're gay. So she's like, they're gonna put her on her own room and stuff, and that was a massive deal. But it was just one person. It wasn't like, okay, the whole Roxy brand is like against lesbians or something. It was just like one person who killed that whole vibe. But it it trickles out, because then like Stina didn't like stand up, where I eventually was like, I'm putting my foot down. If you don't like fight for our relationship and all this because of her, then I don't want to have this relationship,
And that's crazy, because if I was to think about like that's like basically Quicksilver France, right? And that was if I was to imagine that happening in a US based company, or
That
brand,
could have been a big lawsuit if I think about all that.
it would have been a huge lawsuit, and it would have been
Yeah.
like it would have been huge. So
Yeah.
that's interesting that we often
But
talk
that's
about.
like with Stina, she took it like she was always defending, because it was her boss, and she was defending this woman because she looked so much up to this woman, you know. And it took me a while to like talk to her and make it clear like what she's doing is super wrong, because she's like, you know, our relationship isn't wrong, and Stina felt wrong about it and couldn't openly be who she wanted to be. And yeah, that was really bad. And the funny thing is that like Margie was a very open, nice woman, like did everything for the action sports, and people like look so up to her. But then it's like you really know her, it's like kind of like you're being a fake, because you're like, you don't accept. And I always said she has a crush on Stina. Like I always said, like she likes you and she just can't live, because and that's just my opinion from looking out. Like she never married her guy that she's been with for so many years. He never was like doing anything together with him. They showed up at like public events, and I'm like, you're like in the closet old lesbian that never got to live your dreams. You're jealous as fuck. That's my opinion I took from it. Might be wrong, I might be completely wrong, but that's just what I did. So I'm like, yeah, so that was the one thing in the industry. But as I said, I didn't feel it was the industry, it was this person.
It was an isolated incident.
But it happens and it trickles out, because then it's like, okay, Roxy events are going to be less open about, and maybe Kirsty had a feeling for this too, because I feel like Kirsty never really openly spoke about her being gay.
And if this person, this marriage had been, let's say, if she'd been kind of like called out on that at some point, and it hadn't been able to deny it, she would probably said it was more to do with protecting the brand than her no homophobia.
Who knows? And that's it. Like I never spoke to her about it. And then like there's been times we had good dinners, and I'm not even sure she did end up coming to a wedding or not. I think she might have, like, you know, as she was a big part of Stina's life. And it's like, yeah, I don't feel like in the end that she was directly homophobic. Do not hang with us. But it was like she was still blocking things on Stina, and that's just like, yeah, personal issues, I think. I've never met a homophobic person. I've seen actions like this, but when I actually am one-on-one with a person, I never felt hatred of anyone, even if a person would be like, not up like for gays. And it's like, if I have no one had like ever problem me, and I find out I'm gay after, like, oh, you know, does that change their mind? Not, it's like, it doesn't change me.
Yeah.
And they liked me in the beginning, so like, why would you actually change your mind now? And that's just dumb.
Yeah.
My mom was dumb. She was like, when I told her I was gay, she's like, well, I hope you're not gonna be one of these lesbians that cut their hair off and then it is all like butchy and stuff. I'm like, Mom, how dumb can you be? I am me. That's the whole thing. I'm not changing. But I you know, some, and I think again more on the male side, I feel like they have to change to make a point, and that's why they're maybe sometimes more over the top. But that's my opinion. I don't know if that's true. That's how I see it. They sometimes need to show more because no one gets it that they're gay, so they have to act it out maybe more. Because I'm like, I'm just me. I don't fucking give a shit what people think.
That's an interesting idea. That like, because I knew a guy who was straight when I first met him, and then he kind of came out a couple of years later, and and then after that he definitely became more camp, I guess the term is. He became more overtly gay, and it's an interesting point that maybe that's a response, or more of a making more of a statement.
Sometimes I even like joke about myself, because I'm like, I like these plaid shirts, and it's been so stereotyped, you know, lesbians wear these like plaid like lumberjack shirts and stuff. Now I look at my closet and have every color of them. I'm like, but they're just comfortable, good shirts. And I'm like, down, like I'm like such a dyke. Like I like joke with myself, and I was like, oh, I don't want to look this like way or stuff. And it's like, oh, if I would shave my hair, cut my hair, I look way too butch. It's like, but I want it. I was like, I need then more makeup on my face, but I don't like to put makeup on because I like to show my female side that people apparently somehow don't see. But then it's just like, why am I fighting with all these thoughts and ideas of how to show myself? Like, I put on a tank top and I'm like, my wife puts on the same thing. Oh, you look so cute. And if I wear that thing, I look like a fucking, ooh. And I'm like, oh, fuck it. That's just me, I guess. But then it's like, yeah, is it, in the end, it's all what, like, you know, the outside world thinks of you. And it's like, it's not going to change.
And that applies to everybody.
Yeah.
You are, I guess.
However you want to look. It's like,
people are always,
you want to color your hair and you hope to give a different image out, but how we see you with blonde hair, it's going to be like, oh, he looks a little like, is that why you try to show?
Yeah, I got a couple of comments. You fucking old man. I'm like, fuck. Then thank you. I made it old.
Yeah.
You know, might not get old. I think that's a compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all that stuff goes away once you get past mid-30s and have kids anyway, because then you're no longer visible to the younger generation and no longer have any kind of like coolness anymore and stuff like that. So all that stuff becomes more and more irrelevant.
Yeah, for sure. It's like I have a Japanese friend who actually like, fuck, somebody should told me earlier. I was always like worried about my watch and my car and everything. I don't care about that now. After a second, I'm like, didn't somebody just tell you that 20 years ago?
I care about my car.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, you did a good job, by the way.
Huh?
You did a good job, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Oh God, I love my truck. It's like finally I'm being my true self. I'm driving the pickup.
Hello.
Hello.
Can hear you. Hear me? You guys are in my ears.
Okay.
No. Well, guys, it's been good. I feel like we've had a good chat and we've covered all the
It was good to hear
bases.
your perspective, Cheryl. Like I knew some of them, but you got some good point of views.
I feel like I'm back in 2 weeks. We got to be back, and I got a lot of explaining to do. But
Yeah,
we're going to be doing another one to defend you.
No one can fire me. It's done.
Yeah.
No, I think it was a good talk, and I mean, who knows what people take away from it, but I think like it is nice to show that we can just talk about it, what you should be able to openly and like let, especially Terje say his words. It's like I was shocking to hear that his first letter was denied. Like that's and I'm against journalism in a sense. Like I've seen so many stories that I said in the Dutch newspaper and they twist it. I'm like, you know, if you do it good. And that's like, I respect a few people like this, like you give everybody a seat at the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome.
All right.
Any closing words, Terje?
Terje, you're my hero.
Oh,
why you ignore my text?
like, you know, I totally like, if we go looking back, I think I should definitely like went really harder on you know, sent apology direct to Gus, you know, not through a magazine.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm sure I'm gonna meet him later. I'll give him a kiss then.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's broken heart about it, because I think he knows that I didn't mean it towards him.
He's moved on for sure. He's like, that was just a little thing, you know, probably doesn't even, he probably didn't even wouldn't known about it if no one brought it up. He'd be like, oh yeah, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing. It's like, Terje, like, you're an amazing snowboarder. You have done so much for everyone in the sport and all this. But I was like, I do still think sometimes you can be an asshole. And that's fine. That's just the opinion. And it's cool. Like, I know I can be an asshole. And it's just like, sometimes it happens. But for you, you did it like on an open platform. And it just, people like to blow shit up. That was never even your intention to say or do. And it just sucks.
Yeah, sometimes people can just, you know, I think anybody who's like you guys and myself too, someone who's takes being authentic seriously, and someone who is prepared to stand up for what their beliefs are, and sometimes someone who has some strong opinions and doesn't mind sharing them even when they're not particularly welcome.
I think it's so good, at least to make people think.
Then you're necessarily gonna piss some people off, and you're sometimes gonna have some people come after you because you know, there's a, you know, it's a war out there, and it can be, and that just goes with the territory. And I think that to some extent, you know, you've got to say, well, this is me, and yeah, my writing should stand for everything, but it doesn't. That's not the world we live in, and I'm going to speak my mind. Even if I choose to do that, I've got to be prepared to take some shit for it. But I'm also, that's who I am, and I'm not going to back down because you know, you're being real. So so you always struck me as someone who's very, you know, real and not afraid to speak your mind, even if, yeah, sometimes you come across as being a bit of an insensitive dick. And the same for you, Cheryl, and the same for me too. So, you know, like, you know, here's to us being insensitive, loudmouth dicks.
I know it's right, but they're probably gonna say, well, you should have had someone else in that group that isn't such a dick and speaks their mind their way. They should have someone sensitive.
We'd have just bullied them.
We will be bullies.
And made ourselves look even worse.
Yeah, I think like, you know, brought it up and hopefully becomes something better out of it. And, you know, at least it's like you say something it doesn't hurt to make people's minds be questioned.
Yeah, I also
sometimes
think
it's needed.
You know, like maybe, you know, like I learned from my mistakes. I hope maybe other people learn from my mistakes. But also when you're labeling people without knowing them and their background and for the wrong reason, I think, you know, that is kind of harsh to, even sometimes worse than actually. And
Yeah.
I think that's what like society is feeling now. And
yeah,
you can see, you know, like the social disturbance thing it's an issue for the world, for kids. You know, people have shrinks in age of 13 now or younger. It's kind of new diseases popping up, and you know,
social anxiety.
I just think people should be careful, you know, including myself.